You know, sometimes we just find these gems that we get. You know, we're lucky enough to be able to have, you know, gear rolling through here pretty, you know, consistently, and we've got a pretty good crew of Pacific Northwest boys that we kind of share all of this gear with. So when we get something in, or when I get something in that kind of clicks some of my buttons and really kind of gets me fired up about things, I get excited about it. But then what I do is I typically start rotating it through all of the folks in our kind of community. We've got about 7 or 8 of us that kind of run through a lot of the gear that I have. And what that does is, you know, it helps me kind of control my bias and make sure that just because I like it, you know, kind of maybe it's just a me thing. But it also gives me a lot of feedback and kind of perspective and information for when I shoot these reviews for you guys. And one of those things is, and you guys have heard me if you've been in our Discord, I've been freaking out about this company for a long time. They made a lot of our best of 2025. At the end of 2024, when we had those things, it was just absolutely fantastic. I am talking about the Atohm GT1 bookshelf speakers. They're right behind me here, the ones on the inside. They're next to the Platimons that I've had for a long time. A little bit cheaper than the Platimons. They come in at about $4,300–$4,500 a pair for the Atoll GT1s. And if you haven't heard of this company, they're out of France. They make everything handmade, all the way down to the drivers and literally the glue that they. I mean, it's just like everything is in house. It's absolutely insane. Super super cool company. We have had this speaker around to a lot of folks. And actually, I have a buddy of mine, Jonathan, who owns a dealership down in the Vancouver area. And he's actually a dealer for high-end audio gear. And he's got some really high-end stuff, man. And he sat down and listened to these GT1s. And first thing out of his mouth was, man, now that is a nice speaker. And this guy's rocking some really, really high-end stuff. So let's take a look at the GT1-HDs from Atoll. And if you've watched some of the stuff that we've done before, we've talked about the Atoll SDA 200 integrated and those products. So I'll talk about what we paired these with, what our experience was, and why I love them so much and why it's taken me so long to do the review. So let's take a look at them. We'll come back and get into it. By the way, this week's video brought to you by Ridgetop Pale Ale. Not really, they don't sponsor me. It's just good. So cheers. All right, let's go look at these speakers. All right, so here's a look at the bookshelf. It's a pretty solid size stand mount speaker. It runs a 6-inch driver in the front, 28 millimeter tweeter. It's got these really cool wave guides, just amazing neodyme magnets. I mean, the technology that you can't even see inside of this speaker is insanely impressive. And you got to go to their website. They've got this whole tech sheet. I will include it in the description below so that you guys can go read up on the massive amount of technology, the TCC technology that they use in here, the crossover assembly and kind of how it all interacts, the time alignment and everything. It's absolutely crazy. Really cool cabinetry. It's a high gloss finish, looks really good. It's got a nice taper to it if you kind of look at it from the side. It's got a little bit of a taper kind of going around, so it's not just a square box. On the back, here's the binding post, and this is the only speaker, or one of the only speakers you're going to find that has knob feel. This actually right here kind of adjusts the level of the tweeter. I think they say kind of like think of it as kind of like laying it back a little bit. You've got kind of a neutral sound, and then you can kind of roll forward and get the whole presentation a little bit edgy. Beautiful speaker here, and they're super nice. They're bottom ported. You'll notice there's no front port. There's no rear port in this guy. They are bottom ported, so this base plate right here is actually the same dimensions and width and everything of the cabinet. And then there's a gap right here with these little posts that kind of elevate it, and then it's a bottom ported speaker. So really kind of easy with placement where you want to put them. All of these drivers, everything that you see, they literally make in-house. And I'm telling you guys, they take everything to the nines. If you read that spec sheet and you kind of get on their website and you really start to dig into this company, you'll realize how passionate they are for their product. And I mean, just look at that thing. Absolutely just fantastic. And they come in some different colors. Yeah, this is an aluminum plate here. This is all aluminum, not plastic. The knob feels like, ooh, that is substantial. It is all aluminum. There is no plastic here. The binding posts, of course, they're kind of plastic, but they're a decent binding post. I'm not mad at those binding posts at all. They feel really good. They work good. Everything on this speaker is built really nice. They got their name kind of plate on here. And the tweeter. The tweeter is a soft dome, but they actually put this little kind of small grill over it a little bit, so you can see that you don't have to worry about the kids poking the stuff. And then they have small covers that you can put on just the driver. So if you want to cover this driver, you've got just a little round grill that goes over it, and then you've got the full grill that you can put on it too. I'll put pictures and stuff of that in there as we go. But there it is, man. Beautiful speaker, and I'll throw some B-roll in here so you guys can see some close-ups of this guy. But yeah, man, literally one of my favorite speakers I have ever had in this room. And let's talk about how they sound and what we paired them with, and why this is probably my favorite speaker so far. Let's get into it. All right, so that was kind of a look. How does this thing sound? I'm telling you guys that this is a very interesting speaker, and I know we're not talking about a cheap speaker. This is like over $4,000 for a pair of these things, and they do have a small tower and a large tower, so you can go to the GT1, GT2, GT3. I think it's like $4,500, a little over $7,000, right around 13, 14 grand or something for their flagships. I'll post the prices, but we heard these at Expono last year, and they absolutely blew our mind. It was one of our favorite rooms. We reached out to Emilio, super great guy. He got us hooked up with the Atoll SDA 200 all-in-one integrated amplifier. If you haven't checked out my review, go look at that, because that is a phenomenal pairing. They're literally made to be together. And then we got the Atohm GT1 HDs in, not to be confused with the original GT1s. This is the newer model. There was a collaboration that was done earlier with an amp manufacturer, and there was a speaker designed. It is not the same thing, so if you're going to look for these on the used market, good luck. And if you find the OG HDs, don't get them confused, or the GTs, don't get them confused with these guys. This is a completely different speaker. So I will say that ultimate synergy, pairing these with an Atoll SDA all-in-one integrated, or some separates but sticking in their sphere, you're going to get some really good magic here with these speakers. But they pair nice with everything, and they're like 90 dB sensitive, so I could literally take them downstairs, put them on my La Dolce Audio 9-watt single-ended pentode amplifiers, and it's absolutely magical. Beautiful realism and stuff. Of course, you lose a little bit of that kind of bass pressure and stuff like that. Paired with the Orchard Audio GANFET amps, absolutely fantastic. We had them on all the Class A amplifiers that we've had. Great pairing. The nice thing about these speakers is, depending on kind of your personality or your preference, you've got that adjustability on the back. So if you want a little more vibrancy and energy coming into the room, like if it's just, if you kind of like that excess energy and that little bit of forwardness and kind of trying to feel that, you can just switch that little knob on the back and just roll it forward, and poof, the things just come alive, man. But if that's too much for you, if you've got a little bit of a more forward of a front end, say you're running some GANFET Class D or something like that, and it's just a little bit too edgy, you can roll that guy back. If you're rolling with some nice tube amplifiers, you can crank it up. But very versatile, sounds very good. The nice thing about the bottom port is the placement's pretty easy to mess around with. You don't have to worry about that too much. The bass is really good. I think that's one of the standouts for this speaker, is how much bass it actually puts out. We had it in our large room, and you still kind of needed a sub, but you could tell that it was like, I could almost be all right here. That's not super bad. But put them in a room like this, definitely 100% no sub needed. The sub is the bass is nice and textured, how it kind of blends into the mid range. The way they've got this thing crossed over is just really nice. Very nice extension and energy on the treble. Mid range is solid, very well balanced. I like what Loic said the other day. Loic did a review from the Hi-Fi Cave, and he talked about, like, we do this too much of, like, oh, the bass was really good, or the mids were really good, or the treble was really good. It's kind of a relationship between everything, and they all affect everything differently. And when you get a speaker that has a really nice balance between the bass and the mids and the treble, and one thing kind of doesn't stand out more than the other, it's really a great space to be. And that's one of the things I like about these speakers, is they have this energy and presence, but they don't lose the musicality and soul, and then they don't get so musical that the bass gets kind of slow and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit kind of, soft. Everything just really stays nice and cohesive. They found a really good balance between kind of a forward, edgy speaker and kind of being too laid back. I would not call these neutral, though. I think they're still going to be a little bit on the warmer side, based on what I call neutral. You know, having had the Baffles and some Klipsch Heritage type speakers and some speakers that were really kind of forward and edgy. The Bach Audio, for example, that was a really forward speaker. So just me, based on what I heard, and where I kind of, based on my experience and my scope of view, what I would consider neutral, I say these are just a smidge warm. But one of the things I liked about them right off the rip, and I talked to Emilios about this, he actually used to work for Dynaudio. And I was telling him, I was like, you know what I really like about these Atoll speakers is I kind of get a little bit of a Dynaudio vibe. Like they've got this musicality and they've got this really good bass, but there's a little more extension, a little more air, a little more detail, a little bit more of that micro detail retrieval and presentation from, like, say, the Evoke 50s that I have, which are about the same price. You know, they're a little bit off, but one's a tower, one's a bookshelf. But as far as that top end, it's kind of everything I love about Dynaudio, but everything I wanted more from Dynaudio. So it was a very interesting relationship there. But yeah, these speakers are absolutely fantastic. Very, very versatile. They're beautiful. They're well built. Great company. All handmade in France. These guys are absolutely fantastic. And I've really enjoyed working with these folks. And this is a speaker that I have had for probably, man, 7-8 months. And I just keep procrastinating on doing the review because I don't want them to go back. So I'm finally doing the review here. One of the great things I will tell you guys, if the $4,000 plus price tag is a little bit too heavy for you, Atoll just came out with a brand new set of entry-level speakers. I think they're Sirocco. You can check them out on their website. They're about half the price of the GT1-HDs. And I heard those at Expona this year, and I'm telling you guys, I think Atoll might have messed up a little bit because you get a lot of what the GT1s bring to the table for half the cost. Now, the cabinetry is not quite as nice, but they share that same kind of sound profile. I don't think they have that adjustability and that technology of you know, adjusting the tweeter and stuff and the relationship. But if you like these just on the straight middle setting and just kind of stock set it and forget it, and it sounds absolutely amazing, but you're not really wanting to spend that much money, make sure you check out those. I think that's a bang for buck, and we're going to get a pair and do some reviews on that. So that is my take on the Atoll GT1-HDs. Probably my favorite speaker I've had in over a year in this house, and a lot of good feedback from everybody else in our community that kind of aligned. Everybody loved this speaker. Everybody wanted to borrow this speaker. It was like, James, can I get the Atolls? Can I borrow the Atolls from you? I mean, they went around in our Discord forever, which was another reason I couldn't really do the review. So we finally got them back, got them settled in, ran them through a ton of gear. And they are absolutely fantastic. Worth checking out. If you're interested, hit me up. I can get you in touch with Emilio so he can find you a dealer. And if not, you know, you can search on the internet and figure out. But definitely get over to their website and check out some of their stuff. And yeah, appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one.